Friends, before starting today's horror story, I would like to tell you a very interesting stat. 80% of our viewers who watch our stories haven't subscribed to our channel. And if you are one of them, you have to do a small task where you have to click to the subscribe button and also press the bell icon so that you are the first to get the notification as soon as our video arrives. El Silbon, urban horror legend. This story comes from a lovely village in South America, Los Llanos, with greenery and farms all around. A boy named Damaso was living in one of those farms at his uncle's place during his holidays. People used to sleep early during those days, so everyone slept just after having their supper in the evening. Damaso had laid down on his bed, but he couldn't sleep. He was just staring at the fan on the ceiling when suddenly he heard the sound of the whining of animals. When he got up and went out, he saw that the sound was coming from a nearby animal shelter where there were several cows. When Damaso looked at the sky, to his surprise, he saw that the sky was covered with dark clouds. He thought that the cows were scared of the coming storm, so he went to the cows to take them all to the stable that was inside, and with a lot of difficulty started taking all the cows to the stable that was inside one by one. Damaso had never seen the cows so restless. Due to them being so restless, it was becoming difficult for him to take the cows. Heavy rain had also started. With great difficulty, when he had sent some of the cows into the stable, he started smelling a very foul smell of meat. As he was sending more and more cows inside the stable, the number of cows was decreasing from there, and the smell of the meat was increasing. When only some cows were left, he noticed that the blood-soaked bones of a cow were lying there. Seeing this, Damaso froze there and started screaming loudly, but before he could run away from there or do anything else, he heard a sound from a distance. The sound coming from miles away amidst rain was so terrifying that his soul trembled as he heard it, and as soon as he heard it, he understood that he was going to die because the sound was of El Silbon's whistle, which meant that El Silbon was coming to him. Damaso had heard a lot of stories related to El Silbon. He remembered how his relatives used to tell stories about a man who had encountered El Silbon. According to the story, just like Damaso, the man was going through a similar field for a party on his horse, and suddenly, the horse slipped on something in the forest field. When the man looked nearby, he saw the bones of a deer lying in front of him, from which the half-eaten meat was still hanging by the body. Before the horse rider could understand anything, he heard a soul-stirring whistle from a distance. He tried to wake his horse up, but it was too late. He heard the sound of something big jumping on the tree just next to him. The horse rider wanted to run away from there, but suddenly a bone came flying and struck his head, which ruptured his head. The horse rider started screaming and crying for help, but it was of no use, as in front of him was standing the face of death. The guy was 19 feet tall and had a hat on his head, but his body and head seemed as if he were a skeleton. The horse rider had never seen such a terrifying creature in his life. He had a sack full of bones, and he started throwing them towards the horse rider without stopping. The horse rider kept on begging for his life, but the man started eating the bones from inside his body. The next morning, while grazing cows, the villagers didn't find the horse rider, but his dead body, which had turned into a skeleton lying near the field. It is said that the 19-foot big man who looks like a skeleton is El Silbon, and he still wanders in the area to date. The same story was going on in Damaso's mind, and before he could run away, suddenly he could see a 19-foot-long shadow formed on the ground. And then a man taller than that shadow came out. He was wearing a straw hat, and his flesh was coming out from each spot of the body. The 19-foot-long man was none other than El Silbon. The man started coming towards him. The sound of the bones clashing together in his sack started getting louder as he was coming near Damaso, and louder than that was Damaso's heartbeat. Damaso started running away from there to save himself, and he realized that El Silbon was jumping from one tree to the other to chase him. Damaso kept on screaming, but El Silbon came and stood in front of him. He tried to kill him using his long hands, which had his own flesh hanging around. Just then, the sound of a dog barking came from one side, due to which El Silbon started pouncing due to fear and disappeared somewhere in the air. When Damaso looked, he saw that his pet dog was barking, who had probably come there listening to his voice. Damaso himself believed that if his dog hadn't been present there, his bones too would have been lying inside that sack that El Silbon had on his back. After that night, Damaso kept on thinking about El Silbon itself. He asked his relatives and people living nearby about El Silbon. What they told him was much more scary than what had happened to him. People told him that the story of El Silbon was real. According to the story, a spoiled boy of a family used to live in that area of the village during the 18th century. Since he was the only child in the family, his parents and grandfather used to listen to everything he used to say. One day, he had asked his father to bring deer meat for dinner, after which his father went to hunt with his sack and a hunting rifle. When his dad didn't return for a long time, the boy got very furious. The boy's mother gave him a very sharp kitchen knife for his protection and asked him to find his father inside the forest and bring him back home. When he came back, he didn't have his father with him, but he had a sack with a lot of bones, a lot of meat pieces, and some organs inside it, which he gave to his mother and asked her to cook it, saying that it was the meat of deer. His mom felt very strange while cooking the meat that he had brought from the forest. She had started getting suspicious, so she told about her fear to his grandfather. Hearing this, the boy's grandfather took him and tied him to a tree outside the house and started hitting him hard with a whip until he told the truth, a truth that was very terrifying. The boy told him that when he found his father inside the forest, he was empty-handed because he couldn't hunt the deer. The boy got very angry, and with the same knife that he had, he killed him. With the same knife, he took out his flesh and cut down the other pieces of the body, put the pieces inside his sack, and then came back. On hearing this truth, his grandfather started hitting him so hard with the whip that his flesh started coming out of his body and hanging out of it. After that, his grandfather poured chili and wine on his wounds and untied him from the tree. He put the sack full of his father's meat and bones on his back, led his two dangerous dogs behind him, and left him to wander forever. It is said that, to date, the soul of the boy wanders with the name of El Silbon. All the people living in the village believe that they have encountered El Silbon at least once in their lives. He lives on the tree and whistles in a different way and attacks the person who wanders in the field late at night like an animal. It is said that he is only scared of dogs, and that's why all the people living in that area have pet dogs. Damaso was saved because of his dog on that night. Otherwise, he too must have ended up being a victim of El Silbon. If you like the story, then do subscribe to our channel, Bloody Monday, and keep watching for more such spine-chilling horror videos. Please do share the videos with your friends and family so that we could get motivation for uploading more of such spooky videos. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our eerie, heart-pounding videos. Keep watching and stay brave.